Welcome to On the Spectrum Podcast, a podcast by autistic people for autistic people. My name is Steve, and this silver here is
Nick.
Nice. So Nick normally does a little intro before we start, and I'm going to do it today. Improvise it on the fly. Here we go. So
we're doing it live.
Nick and I do not claim to be experts in anything. We're just here talking and bullshitting and sharing our feelings and thoughts about the world. We don't claim to be experts, and we're not, okay? So if we say anything that you disagree with or that you may find offensive or anything like that, well, I guess that sucks for you. Leave us a comment if there's something that you're upset or mad about. Or you think we're wrong, because we're probably wrong a lot of times. But today...
Whether you like it or dislike it, leave a comment. If you have topics you'd like us to cover in another episode, post those. If you'd like to argue with anything we've had to say, or if you'd like to be on our show, please drop a comment in whatever podcasting service you do. We're also on YouTube and Facebook, so you can contact us there as well.
Thanks, Nick.
You're welcome.
Everyone just stopped listening now.
Yes, they did.
Okay. So today is...
Also, we use a lot of foul language. So there's that. Go ahead, Steve. In my opener, I always cover that. Go ahead.
Okay. Today is the Reddit episode.
Yay!
So Nick...
What does that mean, Steve?
Nick wanted to go through... So we both read through a couple of the autistic subreddits on Reddit. And we wanted to go through and kind of like just look at some posts that are on there and kind of talk about them, read some of the comments. So, since I'm already talking and since you have so graciously interrupted me several times, I'm going to start with this one because you haven't seen this yet, and I think that you'll have something to say about it. Much like anything, you have something to say about everything.
Everything. So no matter how many times you've ever interrupted me, now's the time you're going to be like, oh, thanks for interrupting me.
Yes.
Oh, great.
Okay. So this post on Reddit is by Sensitive Macaron 904. I can hear all of that.
Sorry.
Like nails on a chalkboard. He just moved his mic across the table and he's heard it scraping like he was dragging his dick on the floor.
It was 2 inches. Okay. It was 2 inches.
So this episode's off to a great start.
So, oh my God.
All right.
I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal.
All right. So Reddit post, it's on R Asperger's and it's by you sensitive. You mean the user. Sensitive Macaron 904.
Do we have to give their usernames? Do we have to give credit where credit is due?
Title is Fellow Asperger Siding with NT.
Siding with NT.
Yeah, so
okay.
He says, hey guys, I wanted to share this weird experience I had the other day as someone with Asperger's syndrome. So I met my cousin who also has Asperger's, and at first I was pretty stoked. He had the telltale stimming thing going on, and I thought we'd hit it off. But man, was I wrong. As we got to know each other better, I realized that this dude was always siding with the NTs in our conversations, and even joining in when they made fun of me. I mean, what the heck, right? I tried to talk to him about it, but he just gave me that you deserve it attitude. Not cool, man. Honestly, it hurt me a lot. I always thought that people with Asperger's would be more understanding and accepting of each other, but I guess not. I'm not sure if the cousin of mine is just an exception or if there are more people like him out there, but it made me wonder. I also understand that even amongst NT, they attack other NTs, but common Aspie attacking another is so blasphemy. That's what it says. So blasphemy.
Sure.
That's why I wanted to share this with you guys. So have any of you guys had a similar experience? I'd love to hear your thoughts and stories.
Okay, so first and foremost, like... he's saying that because the other person's on the spectrum, they should automatically agree and support.
We all have spider sense when it comes to our people.
Yeah, but it did like we're human first, like human, and the person joining with other people that they think are saying something that they agree with or they think is funny, and they're siding against them. Yeah, it's going to happen. We're human.
So here's the top comment, and it sounds like you agree with the top comment. The top comment is, being an asshole and having ASD are not mutually exclusive. That's all there is.
Yes, I agree with that completely.
This is Nubanias is the poster there.
So the other thing the person said was they actually said that something about a perception that they carried about the intent behind the behavior or something like that.
Yeah.
Or why they were doing it. And that's their perception of it. That doesn't mean that's what the other person's intent was. The other person wasn't necessarily doing it maliciously. We don't know if they were. We don't read minds. Unless that's some weird autistic ability I didn't know about. That we're psychic. Or that some autistic people are psychic. Like, you can't make that assumption that somebody's being malicious just because they're making some jokes at your expense.
Yeah. I mean, people are just assholes. And just because we're all autistic or ASD doesn't mean we all have to be friends.
Because we're still human at the end of the day. Like, we're still going to have humanistic traits.
So is it like if somebody has Down syndrome and they see another person with Down syndrome, are they instantly best friends?
That'd be really weird.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes back to like misconceptions, man. Just because we're autistic doesn't mean we're going to immediately agree with everybody.
High five, best friends. Are you autistic? I'm autistic too. High five.
That's hilarious.
Did you want to read through one? Or I got another one I just pulled up. You want to read through
I mean, you got your phone.
Unless you want to keep talking about this guy's cousin. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just people can be assholes.
Well, yeah, I absolutely. No, keep going. You got it open, man.
Our Asperger's. Here we go. Creative Treacle 654 says, does anyone else struggle with interpreting flirtatious advances? Ooh. Since I was a young chap, I've struggled immensely with interpreting flirtatious advances. Yeah. I'm incredibly oblivious to this. I end up providing friends, colleagues with a play-by-play of my interaction with a woman just so that I can get a better read on the exchange. And from this, I'm usually told, yep, she was definitely flirting with you. Ugh, the struggle.
That's a struggle?
So I've actually experienced this quite a bit.
So have I.
You have firsthand seen it many times where I've been out.
Yes, I have.
Especially with a certain person that we used to go out with on occasion who would get angry when women would talk to me. And he's like, dude, why aren't you jumping on that? I'm like, what do you mean? Like, she likes you. I'm like, what do you, she does?
Yeah. I have a hard time with it too. I used to have a hard time flirting with people. So I decided to give it up. And I just didn't flirt with people.
I'm sure that women or people in general are happy that you gave it up.
Yes, they were. I used to have a hard time flirting, or at least I believed I had a hard time flirting, and people just assumed I was flirting with them anyway, but that's, people's misconceptions, I guess, or people's misperception. But I gave it up because I was so bad at it, and I didn't quite get it, right? Because I wasn't subtle enough, or I was too blatant or whatever. But at the same time, like, I always had a hard time knowing when somebody else was flirting with me, unless they were obvious.
Did you find it more effective to give them the candy up front, or to withhold the candy until after you've got what you want from them?
Well, I like to positively reinforce behavior, so I always give them the candy after I get what I want.
Yeah, that's right. After they play with your Tootsie Roll, then you give them the Tootsie Roll.
Yeah, that's right. I'll let you guess which one was bigger.
All right, top comment here. Logical Vast says, yeah, I have missed out on some dates for sure. The worst one was when a girl talked to me for an hour, showing all kinds of interest about my hobbies, and then was like, so do you want to see my room? I thought she just wanted to show me things related to the hobbies we were discussing. She didn't do that. She just said, so this is it, and then looked at me. I told her she had cool posters, but I had to go. I thought it was weird. She was not talking anymore. Most likely she was hoping I would make a move because, I know no girl is going to put herself alone with a guy like that unless she likes him. So I can't say that I haven't done something like that before myself.
I have probably been in a situation where somebody was being pretty obvious and I kind of missed some clues there maybe.
So this is my bad.
But I will say that if somebody, and this is kind of advice to anybody listening, if somebody says, hey, let's go to this private place. Hold on. I just realized how what I was about to say.
He's going back into the candy.
Yeah, I think I just realized somebody could misunderstand what I'm saying. If you're having a long conversation with somebody and they're showing interest in your hobbies and they say, hey, let's go to some private area and continue this conversation, just assume they're flirting with you. Just assume. It's probably a good, valid assumption. You can probably take that probability that that's what they're doing. But I also understand how that person could misview that situation though, because if y'all are talking about, say, both of you both of you are really big into Harry Potter or Star Trek or Star Wars or any of that kind of stuff.
Wait, so you're assuming that this person is also autistic?
Well, if both of you were talking about something like that and they're like, hey, I've got a bunch of stuff, memorabilia for it, or I've got a bunch of that kind of stuff.
You get a boner when she asks you if who shot first, Han or Greedo.
But if like nothing sexual is said or nothing flirtatious potentially is said, like she didn't say, hey, I think you're as sexy as Captain Kirk. Like if the other person doesn't say that, and they're just like, hey, let's go back because I've got all this cool stuff relating to the topic we're talking about, I can see how somebody could not see that as flirting. I can understand that.
Yeah.
At the same time, though, good God.
But, I did, however, eventually study under the wing of Ace of Base. And I have since then been able to see the sign.
Oh, Jesus.
All right, here we go. Our Asperger's. Ghost Metal Black says,
Ghost Metal Black. Okay.
What song are you currently constantly playing on repeat until you're utterly sick of it? I can't speak. I don't do this much anymore, but when I was younger, I used to listen to the same song a million times.
Yeah.
He says, I'm on my 50th repeat of George Clinton's I've Been Young.
Oh.
Don't know that song, but.
George Clinton is in like
no, not George Clinton. George Clanton.
Oh, Clanton. Okay,
yeah,
I have no idea what that is. But so I used to do it when I was younger too. I listened to They Might Be Giants, the album Flood, so often, and a lot of people do that though. I mean, that's not necessarily a specific autistic kind of thing to do. I know a lot of people who used to obsessively listen to like a Beatles album or a Grateful Dead or Rolling Stones album. I used to do it with They Might Be Giants. I mean, I don't do it as much. I mean, there's a couple of blues albums that I can tell you that I'll listen from beginning to end. And it still brings me the same level of joy and excitement as it used to. A bunch of Keb Mo albums I can do that with.
Yeah.
I mean, a bunch of Edwin McCain, too, because I've listened to just about every song that dude has ever put out. Although he's not, like, super famous. He had a couple of tunes that were really famous, but I really like that dude's music.
I'm trying to think of some of the songs I used to listen to Dark Side of the Moon over and over again, which is just a good album. But one particular song, there's a few Radiohead songs I used to listen to over and over and over again.
Right.
Pretty much all of the songs on In Rainbows.
So I will say one thing. It's actually interesting that you said Dark Side of the Moon because, like, for as long as I've known you, you've really been into like off mainstream music a lot. Like, I don't know how to describe it anymore, but like you've always been into music that wasn't necessarily the most radio played, if you will, music.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the times when I'm in your car, the rarity that I'm ever in your car, you're playing stuff that I've never heard of. And when I'm like, oh, what's this? Is it new? And you're like, no, dude, they have like 6 albums and they've been around for 20 years. Like, I have no idea.
So it's kind of like Richie with his movies.
Yes, it's like Richie with his movies. It's stuff people have heard of and know about, but it's always like left or right of, popular mainstream, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've listened to mostly blues most of my life.
So Nick is like that when it comes to porn. He's just really into all of this stuff that no one's ever heard of. It's like, oh, you like Keisha Starr now. You should have seen her back in 1992.
Oh, Jesus.
I just made up a name. I don't know if Keisha Starr is. It sounds like a porn name.
Yeah, it sounds like a porn name. No, like for blues, I mean, I'm really into a lot of blues people, but really popular blues people. I mean, there's a couple of new female blues artists that I'm getting into, like Samantha Fish. I'm getting into right now. But so for me, listening to less than mainstream popular music has always been kind of a thing. But I don't know if I'd consider blues, left.
Excuse me, sir. The only person Fish I like is Jesus. Okay.
Wow. Is Jesus Fish. Got it.
Oh, okay. Hold on. All right. Our Autism user
Excuse
Bar
me.
Figarfi. I don't know. Bar Figarfi. I don't know how you have to say the name. Just saw someone compare autism to being born with a lobotomized brain.
What?
Yeah. They put a little smiley face emoji and it says, that emoji is sarcastic, by the way, because wow, that's scary. Horrific. Also, this is not a post open for anyone agreeing or trying to justify the comparison. It's fair to look at the similarities, but they are not the same. I'm posting to spread awareness for misconceptions.
All right. Thanks for that. And wow. Describe somebody as having a lobotomy.
I mean, I just happen to have one. It's not because I'm autistic.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with it. No. And you know what? And you go so far as to do it yourself. You're a DIY lobotomist.
The top comment on this post is, perfect luck 25367. It is objectively, scientifically incorrect. Lobotomy doesn't affect the same parts of the brain as autism, and not in the same way. The symptoms are not the same. Not to mention, lobotomy is a surgical procedure, while ASD is a neurodevelopmental disorder. The two basically have nothing in common other than being related to the brain. If that isn't an autistic comment, I don't know what
it really is. So the initial post was, I'm not posting this for people to comment on, agree, or disagree, and yet somebody decided to post.
She said it's not open for anyone to agree.
There you go.
She just wanted to...
It's not open for anybody to, but yet somebody decided to post something in response. They're basically indicating, I don't want a response to this. I just want to post it. And somebody decided to respond anyway. Clearly autistic.
There's some interesting stuff in here. This
All
one.
right, give us a good one. Like most of these are like things that it's like, yeah, sure. All right, let's agree or disagree.
Well, I think you might have a good answer for this one.
Okay.
I don't. At least can't think of anything off the top of my head, but our autism post user is Dark Crowl. What is the most minor thing that has caused you to have a meltdown?
Ooh.
I'll go first. The poster, not me. I once had a meltdown because the TV was too loud while a group of people were it says taking. I'm assuming they mean talking. We're talking in the same room. It caused me to experience way too much auditory sensory overload, and unfortunately, I didn't have my headphones to block out the sound.
I completely empathize with that situation, especially when I was younger. There was a lot of times where I'd be at a concert with a friend of mine because he was in a band and I wanted to hang out with my buddy and support my buddy, but there was just too much going on. I mean, he also had a 9-piece band, so that's a lot of instruments and multiple people were singing, as well as the entire crowd, and it was loud and it was smelly and it was humid and just so much going on. So I can identify with that. But when we're talking about minor moments, I've had moments just being a dad where the kids were being loud, plus I had to do something, plus the dishwasher was going on, plus my fiance is trying to talk to me or ask me something, or even something minor, like ask me what I want for dinner. And it was just too much at one given time. And I even found myself cupping my ears, like holding my ears. Which I don't generally overload auditorily, but I even had to do that just to muffle a little bit.
I think the closest thing I can relate to all of that is being in a car with people talking. So there were several times where I was in a previous relationship at one point, and there were a few times in that relationship where this person was kind of loud, and they were talking, and other people were talking. And I had a panic attack in the middle of driving. I pulled over, went into a bar, did 3 shots of whiskey, and got back in the car because I was having a panic attack because they're just too loud. I couldn't deal with it. Music and people talking loudly. For some reason, I don't know if this makes me sound fucking racist or something, but like people are talking very loudly in foreign languages.
Straight up, if you have to preface it, it probably is. We all know this.
Well, because it's a feeling thing, not a thought thing. For some reason, I feel more anxious if somebody's loud in a foreign language.
Because you don't understand what they're saying?
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
It's like if somebody is being loud in Spanish or being loud in like Italian or something, for some reason that stresses me out more than just being loud in
Really?
English. I don't know why. That's why I said it is making me sound like a fucking bigot or something.
Well, I mean, not necessarily, because, you did clarify that regardless of the language.
No, it's not any
it bothers
specific
you.
language.
Yeah.
It's just if it's a foreign language and it's loud.
You know what's interesting about that? I actually am much better with foreign languages and multiple conversations around me in foreign languages because I can't understand it. So I'm not paying attention to any of it.
Yeah.
And so I can almost ignore all of it and mute it all out because I can't understand any of it. By the way, I remember a moment where sorry, everybody, the microphone didn't cut out, but a small little gnat.
Nick's brain caught up.
Yeah, a small little gnat just flew by my face, and I just paused for a second, like, what the hell?
Yeah, that's
anyway,
squirrel moment.
But there was a moment the other day where you got overwhelmed, where you got a bit much. I was talking to you, my fiance was talking to you, and you were trying to do something online at the same time, and you got very overwhelmed, and you kind of shut down a bit.
Yeah.
And we discussed it. So you do know what that feels like.
Sometimes.
That's
but
a
minor
moment.
thing. I know there was one time where I had a huge tantrum when I was a teenager, which probably also exacerbated by the hormones and everything else.
Yeah, probably.
But I ended up breaking a bunch of stuff in the house. Like I just went around the house and broke shit. I don't remember what it was that set me off, but it was something stupid. Somebody just said something that pissed me off, and I just fucking went on a rage. Took off for a day. Didn't come.
I think my former roommate and best friend Nate can attest to having a honey bear thrown at him.
Nice.
You know those jars of honey that are shaped like bears, little plastic ones.
Yeah.
We were having a rather intense argument.
By the way, the audience might not know this, but those plastic bears actually cause autism. It's one of the other causes.
I thought Pepto-Bismol did.
It's Pepto-Bismol. And but I hope we don't get sued by Pepto-Bismol.
Yeah, I hope we don't either. By the way, anybody who heard us say that, we do not actually believe Pepto-Bismol.
This episode is brought to you by Alka-Seltzer.
But yeah, so I ended up throwing a honey bear at Nate because I just got super, super overwhelmed and I couldn't figure out what to do with the emotion I was feeling as well as the frustration and whatnot. And I just ended up chucking the thing at him. It kind of put a hole in a wall. But as well as honey blew up everywhere. And we ended up both stopping like mid-sentence when I did it. And he turned to me and he goes, of all things you can throw at me, it's honey. Do you know how much honey costs? Like he didn't even react to the fact that I threw something at him as much as how much honey costs. And then we would have to replace it.
I think for me,
yeah,
and you've probably seen this with me, but it takes a lot for me. It doesn't take a lot for me to get stressed out necessarily, but for me to actually blow up, it takes quite a bit because I'm very patient and I get irritated sometimes, but I don't get like physical or loud.
No,
I can, but it doesn't happen often. It's been a long time since I actually blew up at somebody.
You rarely, and I'm not saying this in a bad way or a mean way, but you rarely have tendency to emote a lot of emotion when you're upset. Now I'm the exact opposite of that. Like you give me any level of irritation and it sounds like you just kicked my puppy because I get so like,
I internalize it and then turn it into art or poetry and then
or write really long emails.
Right. Poetry.
Or text messages.
I have an autistic friend that used to read a lot of my poetry when I was younger. And he's like, I had to stop reading your stuff because it made me want to fucking kill myself because it was so depressing. No. He was like, the stuff that I was writing was so dark and depressing that he couldn't. He's like, I can't read this. It's so.
I mean, you were a teenager though, because like, what teenager writes, happy, positive poetry? Honestly.
I started instead of writing depressing stuff, I started trying to be inspired by other things. So like one of my favorite things that I've written recently, when I say recently, I mean like in the last year or two, because I don't write poetry much anymore. It was about the way that we've disconnected with nature. Like the fact that kids and a lot of people nowadays would rather explore a world in a video game than explore the real world.
Right, which I would prefer that too. Did you send me that one?
I might have. I don't know.
Okay, because for a little while there, you were sending me and Natalie a bunch of that stuff.
All right. So let's not delve into that. Moving on, our autism.
Okay, pause on this reading Reddit stuff. like when we talked about this podcast, we talked about exposing ourselves, being vulnerable on the podcast, and kind of letting people in on our
That's
world
why I'm doing
of
it
autism.
naked.
Hold on. But yet you always like, I talk about me very personally, and I open up about a whole lot of stuff and kind of, exposed to the world, a lot of things. But anytime we get remotely kind of close to like I don't know, not real, but real kind of thing for you, you immediately are like, okay, let's move on.
So
Like, come on, man. We decided to do this podcast about us being autistic.
I get a little
to let people in.
So when I write things, like when I write jokes or I write stories or I write sketches for us,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that much to me unless there's something that I'm really proud of.
What does that have to do with right now?
Because when I share poetry with people, or when I write poetry, it comes from more of an emotional place,
right,
rather than logical thinking. It's not the normal way that I am, the like, putting pieces together, logic, reason based, robot me. It's the
robot you.
It's the emotional side of me coming out, because I have a hard time expressing myself emotionally. So when I write poetry, it's not just writing for me. It's like therapeutic. Right. And it's me expressing myself in the ways that I have trouble verbally.
I get all that. I'm just specifically for the podcast though, like,
well, now I just explained it. So
I mean, but you explained it in a very rational justification.
So when
kind of way.
When I share it with you guys, it's because
no. Hold on, man. Hold on. And the reason why I'm kind of specifying to the podcast is because I get why you write that stuff, and I get that you're very logical and practical when you write other things. But literally on this podcast, anytime you get close to really kind of opening up or really kind of showing yourself in an emotional way, you cut yourself off and you're like, okay, let's move on.
Well, I mean, that's just...
I thought that's one of the reasons why we decided to do it this way.
Well, I'm also... I mean, I think I have been opening up about stuff. It's just that
somewhat.
It's my default is to not.
Right. Yeah. Do you think it's easy for me? I mean, come on. Think about the things that I've kind of exposed about myself. Granted, I have a relative who once referred to the way I talk as diarrhea of the mouth.
Well, I'm glad that
everything just comes out.
I'm glad that you're exposing yourself this way rather than the way you normally expose yourself,
you're covering
which
up
is
with a joke now.
Children.
Come on, you're covering up with a fucking joke.
Yeah, that's me.
Come on. Hey, you know what? Be a little uncomfortable. It's okay to
I
talk
just
about
explained
how you feel.
why that I express myself emotionally through poetry, and it's something that
that's why everybody does it that way.
It's something that makes me feel vulnerable.
But that's why everybody does poetry and throws themselves in creative art.
Because if you're,
because they have a hard time,
if you
talking about
if you judge.
Stuff.
So I used to get upset or offended when people didn't understand things that I wrote in poetry, because it felt like they didn't understand me or rejecting how I felt. And it doesn't make logical sense.
No.
But it's a feeling, not a logical thing.
Yeah, it's an emotional reaction.
Like, why can't you understand how I feel? Why can't you understand? Because I'm putting my feelings into these words, and you read the words and you don't understand what I mean, so you don't understand me.
Right. You personalized it. Whatever So I have a hard time reading poetry and seeing it for anything other than, just some words on
Your
page.
wife seems to understand pretty well.
She does, but she's also an NT.
She gets my writing.
Yeah. Well, she's also an NT, and she, lives by her emotions predominantly.
It's weird because normally when I speak,
and I'm not saying that in a bad way.
When I speak, I'm very matter of fact. I tend to be more direct.
Right.
But when I write poetry, I'm much more metaphorical and flowery and
which I have a hard time understanding.
I'll have high level concepts. I'll be talking about something specific, but I'll talk about it in this big, weird meta way. And so I can understand it being hard to understand for people sometimes, because it's not direct, it's indirect. I'm using certain words or phrases to try to invoke certain imagery and things like that.
For your poetry, man.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I have a hard time reading any poetry and fucking getting it.
It's okay. We can't all be intellectual.
Well, but then again, like I've told you before, like when I went to the MoMA, the art museum there in New York with a buddy of mine, I spent the entire time just making fun of all of it. And he was all like, "Ooh, that is gorgeous. Oh, look at that. That's so beautiful and so beautifully crafted." And I'm like, that picture's got boobs. And it's not that I don't know, people might think I'm unintellectual or uncultured or whatever for that. It's just, y'all look at that stuff and have an emotional reaction and look at the skill and quality of it. And I'm just like, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nick is raw milk and I'm yogurt.
Yes.
I'm cultured.
I don't know if I'm lacking in culture. Maybe I'm lacking in appreciation for the culture. Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, go ahead.
I have another. I think you'll find this interesting. I haven't read through the whole thing, but
okay.
Our autism user is too many watches.
Huh?
Stop using it as an excuse for everything. That's the title.
Okay.
My girlfriend and I went to our grandmother's for an Easter dinner, and later in the evening, everyone was talking louder and more chaotic. The thing is, I cannot understand a single thing that is being said if more than one person at a time is talking. It all sounds like vague mumbling to me. Her grandma then repeatedly asked me something, which I couldn't hear, and I told her I didn't understand. My girlfriend then said, he is autistic. He can't hear you if everyone is talking. And the moment she said it, her grandmother and her mother started yelling, you can't use that as an excuse for everything, and so on and so forth. The thing is, I've never used it as an excuse for anything, ever. I work so hard to be fully functional and not forget anything. I wear headphones and earplugs to be able to bear the extreme volume that her family is talking in. I'm trying really hard, and nevertheless, I have to hear their dumb sentences. It's super annoying. Rant over.
I would actually agree with that, because just because you're giving an explanation of your behavior, or you're giving a rationale.
The poster didn't even say. His girlfriend was the one who said.
Well, yeah. What I'm saying to this, though, is just because we, or somebody who cares about us says that, it doesn't automatically make it an excuse, as if like we're just blaming it on that and washing it away. Maybe it's just an explanation. Maybe we're trying to explain it to people of, I'm having a sensory issue right now and it's due to autism. It's not necessarily an excuse in the sense of, well, you have to put up with it because that's what I am. That's it. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's a difference.
Assuming that everything's an excuse.
Right. Like,
or like, if you explain, because this has happened to me with people that I've been, close with, friends or people that I've dated, some of the sensory stuff, and you tell them that you don't like certain things, and then they just like, oh, well, that's just an excuse.
Right.
So,
I mean, somebody once told me, somebody I know rather well, once said to me that even the truth is an excuse. And as I've gotten older, I used to believe that, but when I got older, I kind of realized that, no, there's actually a difference between having an excuse for something and explaining to somebody what's going on. There's a very big difference between the two. And I think people need to be a little bit more understanding in that way and be able to differentiate between an explanation or letting somebody know something and an excuse. Like if somebody says, oh, I can't hold a job because, this thing. Okay. It sounds more like an excuse that way. I mean, there are real reasons why a person cannot maintain employment somewhere. But when they say they can't hold a job because they've got too much anxiety, but then they're going out constantly to like bars and concerts and movies, like, come on, it's a little different there. I mean, in that regard, could you possibly work? Yes, you could. But like somebody who's agoraphobic, we wouldn't say they're using agoraphobia as an excuse for the reason why they can't grocery shop. I mean, they have a diagnosable issue. They have something that is identified as a dysfunction for their life.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think there's a difference between explanation and excuse.
Here's an interesting one.
Okay.
So, our autism.
You don't need to read our autism every time. I think people understand that
some of them were on Asperger's. So I'm reading from two different subreddits.
I think everybody knows we're reading from the autism ones.
You deviant moth. So user is deviant moth. How can I stop mirroring? I keep picking up on things I do and say and think, that isn't me. I've been spending too much time with blank. It's like I'm a product of the people I spend time with. Like I subconsciously steal quirks from people. My personality isn't my own, but like 50% me, and the other 50% is an amalgamation. Oh, I love that word. Of everyone, I use it all the time.
Yeah,
of everyone I enjoy spending time with. For example, I was in a 4-year relationship 3 years ago, and I still have traits from her, and I haven't even spoken to her in 3 years.
Well, that makes sense, though, because that person is significant to you. 4 years with somebody, you're going to... So that whole thing that this person seems to be complaining about, I think that's what they were doing.
I think this happens to everybody, not just autistic
It's
people.
everybody, because our behavior is influenced by all others around us, by our environment. So yes, we're going to pick up traits from other people. Yes, we're going to be influenced by how other people talk to us. Like every relationship we ever had, whether it's a platonic relationship, intimate relationship, coworkers, our parents, we're going to pick up traits from them when we spend a significant amount of time with somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, more specifically, when we're in intimate relationships and our partner complains about something we do, and then we try to correct that behavior for them, that correction stays with us even if we break up with that person.
Yeah, I know. Being around people, certain things will rub off onto you regardless.
Yeah.
I mean, I still remember the aftermath of all that time you spent with Jared Fogle.
Jesus. Literally, I don't think we've gone through one episode without you making a pedophile joke at my expense. I don't think we've gone through one episode. Jesus.
I'm just saying that you're a big fan of your 6-inch. That's all.
You know, at some point, somebody's going to be like, there's got to be something to that. There's nothing to it whatsoever. He just loves that
There's
joke.
nothing to it anymore because the bodies are all buried
Oh, my God. All right.
Sorry,
So-
I get uncomfortable when things get too serious for
I
too
know,
long.
you really do.
I have to make a joke. But no, I was being serious about the leaving, like, because when I remember being younger, especially when you're like a teenager,
Right.
you don't really know who you are, right?
You don't.
And when you spend time with people, especially older people who have an
Yeah.
influence on you, or somebody who's maybe a little bit more mature, they do leave an imprint on you. And I think it's normal to pick up on quirks or certain behaviors, or pick up
Absolutely.
on, I don't know, like I'm sure there's things that I know there's things that I still do from friends that I had 10 years ago. And I
Yes.
still do certain things that I think it's also the environment has a factor in it.
Yeah.
You've pointed out many times over the years that I compartmentalize pretty well.
Yes.
And so when I'm with one group, I act a certain way. And when I'm with another group, I act differently.
Well, I mean, a lot of people do that, though. A lot of people do
So
what you just
when
described.
I'm with my dad, for instance.
Yes.
My dad and I act very silly when we're with each other.
Yes.
So when I'm with him, I start doing and saying things that I don't do with other people because that's been our relationship my whole life. We do stupid impressions of celebrities, and we make stupid noises, and we
Right.
have like weird inside jokes.
Which we all have with significant people. Years ago, I read that roughly, and I could be wrong on this, or maybe the information has changed, but I once read, if I remember correctly, that roughly every 7 years, our personality changes. And to me, that's kind of a given that our personality, or who we believe we are, will change. I believe that there are core parts of who we are that will never change ever. But for the most part, our personality is going to shift and grow and change and morph and become an amalgam of all of the experiences that we've had, including the experiences of interacting with others. So I always find it odd when people bring that up, because they're essentially saying, I don't know who I am, but you didn't know who you were to begin with. You didn't accept who you were completely to begin with, which for one is how you get influenced by other people so much, because you don't have a full conception or a full acceptance of who you are to begin with, and you're questioning it. But also, like, we're going to be influenced by others around us. I mean, hell, prior to me joining the comedy group, 6 years ago, and meeting you and having a relationship with Natalie and a couple of those of the other people that we've done comedy with, I wasn't as outgoing performance-wise. I wasn't as fully confident in my ability to perform or to host the improv shows like I am now, because we shift over time. Who we are is a fluid concept. We always will grow and change.
Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes we regress as well. And it's always a constant change. And that's the thing, like when people talk about, oh, I don't know who I am. Oh, I wish people would stop trying to change who I am. But we're always changing. We're always adapting. And that's actually one of those consistent things about all of existence, of all human beings, is we are going to change.
Well, if you get bored and you're not sure who you are, you can always just pick a new pronoun or gender out of the zebra stripe gum flavor packet, and you have a new identity.
How did I know you were going to go there?
I don't know.
How did I know? The second you said, well, you can, the second you said that, I knew you were going to go into that
I just wanted to
direction.
compare it to zebra stripe gum.
You really did.
Yeah.
You really did. I mean, I don't want to equate the two of those.
I was being an asshole.
Yeah, I don't necessarily want to equate it, but I think there maybe is something to the idea of it.
Listen, gender is a spectrum, and so is zebra stripe gum.
Yes.
You got yellow, blue,
yes,
green.
Yes. Weird, but
purple.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. The association is there. I mean,
how about something about parenting? There's a post from Autism Parenting is a subreddit.
Okay.
It's from the perspective of parents of an autistic kid.
Not parents who are autistic.
Right.
Okay.
So I saw this and I'm kind of curious to read this.
Okay. But hey, let's give it a shot.
It says it's by Taishin Oxai. Today, I cried in the middle of a haircut.
Okay.
My wife and I decided to try to get my kid's hair cut before Easter Sunday. My kid is 5 years old, diagnosed level 3, nonverbal, and does not like haircuts or any kind of stimulation on his head. Hats, sunglasses, headphones, etc.
I'm sorry, level 3?
That's what it says.
Okay.
I know I'm level 99. I am the Goku.
That's a motorcycle in the background.
Yeah. It's somehow coming through the walls into our microphones.
I mean, the walls are not very thick, dude.
No.
It's a fucking shed.
You need to get walls as thick as Lizzo.
Oh, wow.
All right. Level 3, whatever that means. Nick is also a level 3.
I mean, okay, so they said nonverbal, though. They said level 3 nonverbal. So I'm assuming that means lower functionality.
Yeah. Hat, sunglasses, headphones. Okay. So usually I have to sit in the chair and put him in my lap to calm him down enough to get a few snips in before we have to take a break.
Yes, I would. Okay. So now I get, would level 1 be us because we need less help or assistance?
I've never heard this whole level thing.
Yeah. Well, I'm assuming
I'm a level 5 autist.
Yeah. I'm assuming the level language is taking over for the function language.
That's my new
fucking shitty about the function language.
It's my new D&D character is going to be a level 5 autist. I'm on D20. My character stims for 3 damage.
That's great. All
right, so this is actually supposed to be a nice story, and I'm ruining it. All right.
Yeah, that's all right.
So today, however, was especially bad as there were a ton of people trying to get their last-minute cuts in before Sunday for Easter. The place was packed out. My kid was scared to death, and we could not get him to calm down at all. Our hairdresser made the suggestion that we take him to the bathroom and try to cut his hair in there. This was the difference maker. We think that all the stimulation out in the store was causing him anxiety, and he immediately started doing better. Our hairdresser went out of her way to make us feel comfortable, even sitting on the floor of the bathroom and cutting his hair while we were comforting him. After he was finished, I decided to get my hair cut as well. As I was sitting in the chair, I started tearing up, not out of embarrassment, but out of gratitude. We've been going to this hairdresser for a while, and every single time, she shows kindness, compassion, and patience with our kid. I know it's hard some days to see it, and I know that we have our good days and bad days with our kids, but today was a great reminder that there are still good people in the world.
That is a wonderful story, and that hairdresser absolutely was understanding and compassionate. That was great.
Which I think a lot of times people don't have patience, and sometimes I don't blame them.
No, me neither.
Because like if you have somebody who requires extra attention or somebody who's difficult for one reason or another, it's not really a problem, right?
Yes, but everybody's difficult to somebody.
We want to be kind and compassionate, but I just mean like if you're another person, if you're like, it's kind of like if you're on an airplane and there's a baby screaming, like people get annoyed because the baby's yelling, like why the fuck you bringing a baby on an airplane? I get it. It's annoying. Like it's not my problem. You had a fucking kid, right? But yeah,
and in the same right, you're in public.
Yeah.
Like people want to be kind, compassionate, empathetic. They want to be caring when it's convenient for them. And that's not really what any of those are. I mean, you're not a compassionate person if you're only compassionate when it's convenient.
Oh, it's kind of like when the story I told you about the homeless guy and other people's reaction to it was more concern about me than the person who's living on the streets.
Right.
So,
well, because they were worried you were going to get hurt. But if you told that same story of like you gave a guy $1, people would be like, "Oh, that's so nice of you."
Yeah.
Like, it was nice that you gave a ride to somebody who needed it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a nice thing to do. Are there some safety concerns? Yes. But it didn't stop you, but you were mindful of it.
Yeah, I mean, I made a judgment call. He seemed like a nice guy to me. So.
Right.
But it's just that I wasn't doing it to try to look good. I genuinely felt bad for the guy, and I wanted to. There wasn't much I can't like fix this guy's problems. I can't fix his life. But what I can do is I can get you out of the snow.
Yeah. It's kind of like the people who point out or post on Facebook that they just donated money to charity.
Yeah.
Well, I gave what I could. No, you mean you gave extra.
I mean, I know
It's
I take a
like,
selfie every time I leave the sperm bank.
Right. Yeah, there you go. There you go.
I usually hold up my thumb and give a nice thumbs up, and it's covered in lotion. If you notice my right
there's
hand,
some Kleenex pieces hanging off your fingers.
the skin on my right hand, for some reason, I don't know why, is just a lot less cracked and dry.
No, people love to point out when they're doing nice when it's convenient for them. Come on, be a good human being. Be nice to somebody. Be compassionate. Be understanding when it's not convenient for you. Okay, have patience for somebody when it's not convenient for you.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, when people lose patience because they go into a gas station and there's 4 people standing in front of them, well, no shit, there are other people in this world, okay? If you didn't plan out enough time to go stop for gas before you got to get to work, it's not everybody else's problem. It's yours. Don't be mean and crappy to them or the person behind the counter because you didn't plan out your life better.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of the things that drives me crazy when people tap their foot when they're waiting for their coffee that they just ordered at Starbucks. Yeah, there's also 20 other people in the room who just ordered coffee too.
You know something really stupid and petty that pisses me off? Is the people who don't put their shopping cart in the corral.
I'm sorry, what?
If you go to the grocery store, they have cart corrals.
Oh, shopping cart. Okay.
Yeah. You take the shopping cart and you just leave it in a parking spot, or you leave it in the middle of the fucking...
Yeah.
In the middle of the parking lot or in a parking spot.
Right.
I'm like, well, you fucking asshole. Because usually they space them out so that every single car is like, what, 10 feet away from one?
Maybe.
You're fat, American, privileged, stupid, fucking, like, ugh. Like, I was complaining to my girlfriend about this the other day. About, I was like, this is petty. But sometimes I just feel like Americans, like, are so entitled.
Yeah.
And it's irritating. That's you get like the Karen syndrome, you know, just the sense of entitlement is just so fucking irritating to me.
Well, I will say one thing about that, though. I agree with you that Americans are probably far more entitled or Karen-esque than other places, but we've never lived anywhere else, so we don't actually know.
I've only traveled, but it seems like when
You've never traveled outside the country.
I have, but not. I've been to Mexico. I've been to Canada.
Are either one of those really outside?
Listen, but it's also when I meet people from other countries.
Yeah.
When I meet people from other places, like people from India or people from different other Asian countries, people from Europe. It seems like when I meet people from other countries, they seem to be a lot less entitled and a lot more gracious.
But can we say that those are representations of those cultures, or are those the exceptions to those cultures? I
don't know. It's just something that I could be completely wrong. Maybe I'm just an asshole, but it feels to me that Americans have this weird sense of entitlement all the time. Like,
I agree with you completely. I'm just posing
fucking
some
irritating. It's the lack of respect, especially for people who work in the service industry.
I would say it's a lack of consideration for another human being. Because you use the word respect, and I've got a weird relationship with that word respect.
Whatever, but don't treat your waiters or bartenders or servers like shit.
Right. Remember, they're human first.
Don't treat the janitor like shit.
Right. Human first.
To me, that's how I feel about it. When you're saying I am too important and I don't give a fuck about anyone else, so I'm not even going to bother to put my card away. I'm just going to leave it here, and someone else who has to park in the spot has to move it, or the kid who's making 15 or 12 bucks an hour can fucking grab it for me.
What? Like, put it away. Right. I mean, honestly, his job is not to actually run around that parking lot to grab all the carts. His job is to go to the corral and pull them out and bring them into the store. That's actually the job.
The most obese country in the world. I think you can use the extra exercise walking 10 feet to the fucking corral to put your cart away. You fat piece of shit.
Yeah. Hey,
Pisses me
fatty,
off.
take 2 extra steps for me, okay?
My fat shaming.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Whatever.
It irritates me so much.
You know what? That whole thing about shaming, I do have to say one thing about it. And I do agree that bullying is bad. But I do also believe that some people need to be a little prodded a little
I'm
bit.
fat, but I walk my fat ass and put the cart away.
Right. Like, come on. I mean, I understand that there are glandular issues, there are medical issues that cause people to gain weight, and not even just weight, other issues too. But come on. Sometimes we need to be pushed a little bit. Sometimes we need to be reminded that our behavior is not the most constructive.
So somewhere between Columbine
Uh-huh.
and not saying anything, right?
Yes, exactly. Somewhere in between the two of those.
Right. A little bit of bullying's okay.
Yeah, a little bit's fine. I actually think that it creates a little bit of resiliency.
I had a friend who I didn't bully, but I would bring it up. They were obese to the point where it was a health concern, like they could probably die. Like, someone who's like 600 pounds.
Yeah.
That type of person. And I used to bring up my concerns, and my other friend was like, no, you can't say that. That's mean, or that's inconsiderate. It's not for you to decide that they need to lose weight. And I'm like, I get it, but like, am I supposed to just say nothing and watch as they fucking die?
Right. So it's kind of like when I hear people say everybody's beautiful, it actually bothers me when I hear people say that.
And you see somebody who's all deformed and has a fucked up face.
But everybody's beautiful. And they always qualify it with, well, they're a beautiful human. And yes, they are a beautiful person,
the people
but
with
they might be aesthetically horrendous.
What about those people with that bone disease where they get random bone growths? Like their face is all has a giant bone growth or like that's beautiful.
And it doesn't make them any less of a human being. It doesn't mean we should treat them lesser of a human being, but by no fucking means are they beautiful. Beautiful should be the higher end of, aesthetic look of somebody, right?
All right. Why don't you calm down, Jordan Peterson?
All right, sorry.
He got in trouble on Twitter a long time ago for talking about beauty standards. So.
Yeah, whatever. No, like I am not the most attractive man on the planet. I do not even remotely close to believe that I could even be considered a beautiful person or a handsome man.
And I'm glad you understand that.
I'm not bad looking either, but I also evaluate it in this way. I don't have any major
deformities.
Yes, on my face. Like I am 40 pounds over BMI right now, although we can argue BMI standards all day long, but like, so I'm a chubby kind of dude and like, I'm not super built or anything like that. So I'm not peak attractiveness.
You're not Ryan
I'm
Gosling.
okay with that. Right. Yeah. I'm not Ryan Gosling. I'm not, Chris Helmsworth or Jason Momoa. Those are beautiful people, right? Those are attractive people. I don't look like that. And I've been told often I don't look like that.
Or if you're my mother, The Rock, because she's in love
The
with
Rock.
her.
There you go. But at the same time, if we all looked that beautiful, if we identify beautiful, aesthetically beautiful, visually beautiful as everybody, then beautiful doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, I mean, everything's like that. If everybody can't be something, like if everybody's smart, then nobody's smart.
Right. Like I love how there's certain things that people want to say. We're all the same. We're all this. No, it's okay to not be all that attractive, but that doesn't mean you're not a good person. That doesn't mean you're not a beautiful human being. It
also,
doesn't mean that you're not intelligent.
If everybody's beautiful,
worthless.
then why do people talk about pretty privilege?
Right.
So pretty privilege is a thing, right?
Right.
Pretty people, there's data to back it up that people who are attractive have benefits in life. It's easier for them to get jobs.
Yeah.
It's easier for them to make friends because people just like you if you're better looking.
Right.
They trust you more too.
Yeah.
But if everybody's beautiful, then I guess that doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I got another one for you.
Yeah. I could actually rant about that for the next hour
like my cart corral thing.
Yeah.
That pisses me off because people can't put the fucking grocery carts back.
It bothers the shit out of me too.
Autism in women. So this is another subreddit.
Okay.
Because I figured let's mix it up a little.
Yeah, all right.
You, Dad Hat 56.
Dad Hat 56.
That's their username. Right. Is the term visibly autistic offensive? And it says, warning, potentially triggering content.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so.
Hold on. Do you want to hear the post?
Oh, I thought that's all.
No.
Oh.
Is the term visibly autistic offensive? It says, I am late diagnosed. I managed to pass for a very long time, and I understand that is an enormous privilege. So I'd like your advice. When I'm trying to explain how I'm quite similar with my other autistic peers, even nonverbal people, I find myself using the term more visibly autistic to draw a comparison between me and the people they think I am so different from. It gives me the ick every time I say, have you ever heard of that term, the ick?
No.
The ick is a term that a lot of younger people use, like Gen Z. It means like it grosses you out.
Oh.
Like it's icky. The ick.
Oh.
So it gives me the ick every time I say it. And I'm deeply involved in American politics around disabilities and autonomy. I wish I had better examples to model, but instead I'm just asking, is saying someone is more visibly autistic in this context offensive?
And some people will say yes. I will say that, does it bother me when people tell me that I don't seem autistic? It irks me a little bit, but I also put it in context of this, that a lot of the times people, the representations that we see for who needs help when they're autistic are people who are lower function or level 3, if we take that other person's language. And so I don't necessarily take it offensively or find it ick, whatever the fuck. I don't find it disgusting or bad.
Why do you have a hard time with Gen Z lingo?
Because some of it sounds childish. Actually, a lot of it sounds fucking childish to me.
They also say
it's the ick. Just say disgusted. Just say you don't like it. Just say it bothers you.
They also use the ick, like if somebody does something you find unattractive. Like if you think a girl is hot or you think a guy is attractive and you say they do something that you don't like, they say, oh, they're giving me the ick. Yeah, that's that.
Then just say you don't like it or you feel uncomfortable or you don't prefer it. Like, what the fuck? Anyway, so I actually really like that we came across this because I've been watching TikToks and Instagrams for On the Spectrum of other people talking about how they find it offensive when somebody says that some of us are mild autistic. And I don't mind this language either because...
Am I a fucking Slim Jim?
Well, because they say, you don't know what my struggle is. You're right, but your struggle does not involve needing to have a caretaker remind you to eat. You don't have a caretaker who is trying to help you through your day. So you are mild autistic. Does that mean you don't have struggles? No, it doesn't. And in this regard, with this language this person's talking about, like, don't find it offensive. Understand that somebody else needs to have a way of communicating or talking. And you are like less dysfunctional than somebody else. Like, that doesn't mean you don't have struggles in your life. It just means that you have less struggles than this non-verbal person who is autistic, who is constantly flapping their arms all around or has a hard time eating for themselves and somebody has to feed them. You have less struggles than that person. Your life is less dysfunctional than that
Are you Elon
person.
Musk or are you the brother from What's Eating Gilbert Grape?
Right. Like that's a really good description. I like that.
He's not autistic. He was MR, I think.
I think so too.
But
it's a good compare. I like the comparison of that for that reason. Like, are you Nell or are you Sheldon? Like, I don't know. It just bothers me so much. Yeah, like it bothers me so much when people are like, we shouldn't call autistic people mild or severe because you don't know what my struggles are. You're right. We don't know what your struggle is, but you don't know what theirs is.
You know who also talked about their struggles?
Huh.
Hitler.
Yeah. His struggles at creating a master race. Jesus. So it actually, it does irk me quite a bit on that because like even
it gives you the ick.
I hate that you taught me that.
It gives you the ick.
I hate that you taught me that. Jesus, now it's part of my lexicon.
Why do I know this stuff? I'm not Gen Z. I don't know.
Yeah, but you're far closer to them in age.
Yeah.
And you also keep your finger on the pulse, sir. You read Reddit a lot. I don't try to read Reddit much at all.
Not as much as I used to. I used to be like a daily Redditor where I would go on every single day, but I don't anymore. I go on once in a while to check out cool stuff, but...
So I just want to finish with what I'm saying because this is something I'm kind of passionate about when it comes to this language stuff. I've talked about it in other episodes in minor ways, but I really want to make myself very clear, or at least as clear as I can right now. If you are able to listen to this podcast, if you are able to type in the comment section that you don't like the way I'm talking about autism and you don't like that I use function language, if you're able to do that in a complete wholehearted way, if you're able to have conversations with other human beings, whether it's your mom or anybody else, if you're capable of sitting there and watching TV, if you're capable of playing video games, then you are far more functional than a lot of people who are on the spectrum. A lot of people who are not capable of those things. That doesn't make you or them any more or less than any other human being on the planet. It just means that we got to put this in context. Like, yes, you are mild autism. Yes, you are high function autism because you don't need another human being to stand next to you to make sure that you don't cut yourself with a butter knife when you're making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, okay? Like, we need to be able to identify those who are severely autistic, who need extra help, who need more services than we do. We need to be able to identify that because those people do need more help than we do. Like, people like me and Steve, or anybody who's listening to this, who kind of can identify being able to take care of themselves, even in a minor way, their own self-autonomy. Like, we don't need as much help. We need some because we need some help socially, maybe. We need some help with connecting with other people, maybe. But we don't need somebody to remind us how to take a shower every day. So, yes, we are less autistic. That doesn't make us not autistic. That doesn't mean we don't have struggles in our lives, but it means that we need to put that in perspective because there are people who struggle a great deal, like being bipolar. I would call myself, medium to moderate bipolar. I wouldn't call myself severely bipolar because there are people who really have severe dysfunctions in their life because they're bipolar, even with being on medication. And I take medication every day for it. And I still have my moments where my mania or my depression get in the way, but it's not as bad as some. And that doesn't make them lesser to me. That doesn't make them lesser to anybody else, but it just means that they need more help. They need a little bit more understanding from us. They need a little bit more love from us, a little bit more compassion of what they need for services. And that's where we need to kind of focus ourselves a lot. Like, I listened to a TED talk of this woman saying, well, we're all different, so we can't say one person's struggles is greater than another. I can tell you outright that if you're somebody who's autistic that needs somebody to help you wipe your own ass after you shit, then you are less functional than other people. Okay. And that doesn't mean you should be treated as lesser. It literally means that you are less functional in the domains of functionality of life.
I mean, Nick always asked me to wipe his ass for him, but that's completely unrelated.
It's only because I'm lazy. It's only because I'm lazy.
I only use double ply Charmin for him.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So I'm sorry to go on a rant about that. It's just, I feel very strongly about it because, well, I read somebody's comment to that video of that woman for the TED Talk, and they said, you have no idea how debilitating my anxiety is. There are times where I'm so anxious that it's hard for me. What did they say? I'm so anxious that it's hard for me to go out. And then 2 comments later, they talked about how they went to a Comic-Con.
You know what's funny is,
like, if you can go to a Comic-Con, your anxiety is not that fucking bad.
This post that I was just looking at is similar to, well, it's actually related to what you were just talking about.
Okay, let's move on because I'm going to keep ranting about that.
I have one other one, and then maybe we can wrap up.
Okay.
Our Asperger's, you Tomcat, so user Tomcat, T0MKAT. The post says, is being very, very mildly autistic a recipe for lifelong suffering? Question mark. And they said mildly autistic.
Well, they said very mildly.
Because it sure feels like it to me. Having mild Asperger's, mild even within the range of Asperger's, seems to put you in kind of a social no man's land.
Yes.
You're normal enough that you appear like everyone else on the surface, but autistic enough so you prevent really being able to integrate socially. Normal enough to understand what is expected of you, but autistic enough to never be able to reach that standard. I don't know if I agree with that part. Most people you meet will treat you very slightly differently in ways that seem innocuous, but which over time add up to massively change the direction of your life for the worse. You'll be ignored, mocked, overruled, and rejected for things without any obvious explanation. You'll seem to have a very limited ability to make friends or have control over your social life. Sometimes it can be so subtle that you wonder if you're imagining it or if the same thing happens to everyone else. I think your buddy Ian would have some similar experiences that you would think that being mildly autistic would mean that the impact on your life is mild, especially compared to more obvious forms of Asperger's. But in my experience, nothing could be further from the truth. It seems that being in just the right range of Asperger's will condemn you for a life of misery, loneliness, depression, confusion, and frustration that would be avoided if you were not autistic at all or more obviously autistic. I could be wrong about this, of course. Maybe I'm attributing Asperger's other stuff that is treatable, like depression. Maybe the social skills I require can be learned and I just need to try harder. But right now, I feel like I'm fighting a losing battle with my own brain. I'm 28, turning 29, and despite years of masking and trying to figure people out and improve my social skills, it's like I'm stuck in this purgatory that I can never escape from. I'm at a particularly low ebb at the moment, hence the depressing rant. Anyway, I just wanted to get that off my chest. Any thoughts are welcome.
Tomcat was the name?
Yeah.
Tomcat, I completely understand. I completely know exactly what you're saying, my man, or lady. I don't know which one you actually are, Tomcat. In between. Great. So, person, I completely understand what you're saying. I feel the exact same way on a regular basis. I absolutely 100% understand what you're describing. I feel it constantly. I feel like I never fit in anywhere. I'm not normal enough for normies. I'm not autistic enough for autistic people. I'm not bipolar enough for bipolars. I'm not bipolar enough for normal people. And I feel like I'm sitting in this position where nobody could ever really understand me. And a lot of that is in my own head.
And they called it a purgatory, which is kind of an apt description. The top comment says, sometimes the uncanny valley analogy is used. So I don't know if you're familiar with the uncanny valley.
Not specifically, but I'm pretty sure I understand based on the words. I get it completely. And I will say your assessment of try harder at social skills, I completely agree with as well. From my own experience of learning social skills better and learning to mask better, absolutely, it has helped me a great deal to make connections with people. It also helped to understand that I'm not the only one who's on the spectrum who feels that way. I feel like I belong to a community, whether that community accepts me or not. I accept the fact that I'm part of that community. And so I'm not alone.
Tomcat, you can be our friend.
Yes, Tomcat, you can be a friend of not only the podcast, but our friend too.
You are one of us.
You are one of us.
Okay. So here, this is the top post of this year on our Asperger's. I looked it up. It's sorted by top.
Okay.
And it's short. All right. It says it's by Seul Lovely. Seul Lovely is the username. Autism feels like being an adult as a kid and a kid as an adult. That is the top.
Huh?
That's the most popular post this whole year.
All right.
Autism feels like being an adult as a kid and a kid as an adult. Not relatable to you?
Kind of.
As someone said, this is so fucking spot on, LMAO. As a kid, I felt like I was too mature for other kids my age. Now I'm pushing 35. Sorry, I'm 35, pushing 12.
Oh. No, I can get that. Because there are times where I still feel like I'm a bit of a kid.
I still play video games.
Well, yeah, I still play video games, still watch cartoons.
I have action figures in my office. I have a Captain Picard. I have a bunch of Japanese figures from my favorite autistic video game series where you collect demons.
Yeah.
So
yeah, your Persona games.
Shin Megami Tensei, yeah.
So, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That thing.
It's like Pokemon, but with weird stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I can understand their point of view on that. Sure.
So I thought you were going to have more to say about that.
Well, no, I mean, it's an interesting concept that I'd have to think about a bit.
Oh, okay. Well, how about this one? This is one of the top posts of the year.
Okay.
So we can't finish on that. That was two.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's an article. Let's see. Our Asperger's post. The user is Magic Feisty Bitcoin. Magic Feisty Bitcoin.
Before you read this, for everyone out there, seriously, they're creative, but they're confusing. Come on, get a name. Write a real name on there.
It's an article from a website called Neuroclastic.
Okay.
It says autistic people care too much, research says.
I said that earlier, I think.
From the article, here's a quote from the article. Researchers had participants choose this in two different settings, a private setting or a public one. Autistic individuals were much more likely than the non-autistic group to refuse the second choice, which is to refuse to support the bad cause to gain money for themselves. So it says researchers, I don't know. However, it says, however, neurotypical people often accepted the second bad condition in the private setting, but not the public one. Autistic people did not differ in their actions between public and private settings. This was the main difference between the groups and the tasks. Under the private setting, autistic participants refused to support the bad cause significantly more often than neurotypical participants. I realize this study is from 2020 and has been discussed before in various places, but there are enough people who haven't encountered it yet. I've always considered the most morally sound action to take, whether or not people are watching. And religion didn't teach me this. It's just how I've always been.
Okay.
So it sounds like what they're saying in the study they did, they had autistic people and neurotypical people, and that the neurotypical people, they gave you a choice to make a decision that would benefit you but hurt someone else. And when the neurotypical people did it in public, they were more likely to choose the thing that was morally right. And then in private, they were more likely to choose the thing that benefited them when no one else could see. However, they said the autistic people still didn't change their behavior regardless of public or private, and that they were more likely to choose the option that didn't hurt someone else.
Okay. So, for one, context, I think those autistic people were probably on the Asperger's side or high function side. And so possibly less influenced by social influences.
Yeah, I mean,
trying to hide intentions.
Send the article to you if you want, but
it's interesting. Well, I don't know. I can agree with that because it kind of goes back to something I said before about I think that people on the spectrum are far more understanding and more inclusive. So I think they would consider the impact they're having on somebody else far more. And I do believe that we have. Aren't you the one who brought it up to me about the self-righteousness thing?
Yeah. So I was reading about how people on the spectrum tend to have a strong sense of justice.
There you go.
It's like if they see somebody doing something wrong, it affects them like an emotional way.
Yeah.
You feel compelled to do something about it.
So that kind of ties into that.
Yeah. So here's more context. If I actually pulled up the article,
okay,
it says a journal article in the Journal of Neuroscience was released last week regarding morality and individual gain, comparing groups of autistic people and non-autistic people. Participants were from Brazil and age range 14 to 25. Note that socioeconomic status wasn't considered here, so they didn't take that into account. Participants had to either accept or refuse these two different conditions. One, they could accept or refuse to fund a good cause at the expense of their own funds. In other words, a charity supporting education for children and teens, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Or two, they could accept or refuse to support a bad cause in exchange for individual monetary benefit. For instance, an organization that wants to clean the street by exterminating street animals. So that was the example they used.
Okay.
The researchers had participants choose this in two different settings, a private setting or a public one. Autistic individuals are much more likely than the non-autistic group to refuse the second choice, which is to refuse to support the bad cause to gain money for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
However, neurotypical people often accepted the second bad condition in the private setting, but not the public one.
Right. Well, I can understand that because of how they would be viewed by other people in that way.
And the autistic people are like, I don't give a fuck.
I do think socioeconomic status probably does play into that quite a bit. Because I will say, like, and I don't know how broke or how...
Right. So it could have been...
how much you've ever lacked in money in your life, Steve. But, like, if somebody is homeless living on the streets and somebody said... you can gain $100, but we have to kill like all the dogs in town. Like they might go for it because they have so little.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that makes them desperate or bad in morals, but they're in a position where they have to decide whether they're going to eat or some dog lives.
I mean, I was rooting for Cruella de Vil too.
A rich lady who wants to kill dogs.
Yeah, I wanted to see that fur coat, that Dalmatian fur coat. So
I'm just saying, but that is something that plays into that.
Thinking about that as an adult, like I haven't thought about that movie in a long time. Mm-hmm. It's kind of fucked up. This lady wants to kill a bunch of dogs and make it into a fucking like. As a kid, I'd never because I didn't have a dog growing up, right? And like thinking about it now, like about how close the relationship is between humans and dogs.
Yeah.
It's really fucked up. She doesn't kill 100 dogs to fucking make a coat.
101 in fact.
Sorry, 101, but it's really fucked up. Also really fucked up that they had that many puppies, because that doesn't fucking make any sense.
Yeah. It just now occurred to you?
Well, I knew it was bad, but it just like clicked in my brain like how fucked up Cruella de Vil was that she wanted to kill that many puppies.
Yeah. All right.
I'm surprised more kids aren't traumatized by that movie.
Well, A, it's an animated movie, and B, like they don't really go into in severe detail the moral implication of that.
In southern China, they actually use it as a training manual for culinary preparation. You need to learn how to dress the dog.
Wow.
Yeah, so
wow.
Well, that's the area where they eat dogs in southern
it is.
China.
Yes,
Northern Vietnam and southern China.
Yeah.
But
All right.
sorry if that offends anyone, but it's actually because I've heard people say before, oh, that's an offensive stereotype that Chinese people eat dogs. And it's like, well, they do.
There is actually a section
not
of China.
all China, but in
not
certain
all.
areas, they actually do eat dogs.
And I'm assuming it was out of necessity that they started doing it to begin with.
But just because you point out that reality doesn't mean it's fucking bigoted. It's
right. It's the reality.
What do you want me to say? They eat fucking dogs.
Right. It's the reality of it.
Yeah.
Like, come on. I will say when stuff like that's pointed out that there are certain parts of certain cultures or certain countries where a certain thing happens.
Oh, like where they, in certain countries, how they like, they'll torture gay people, or the punishment for being gay is death, like death penalty. I think it was it Nigeria? Because if I say the wrong country, then I'm going to be a bigot too. I think it was Nigeria. It's an African country.
Yeah.
And they're Christian.
Was it Uganda?
No, it's not Uganda.
No.
I think in Nigeria,
Okay.
They used to, I don't know if they still do this. They used, if they found out you actually were, it was not if you were gay, but if you actually were caught having gay sex, that they would, if you acted on homosexuality, they would put you in a pile of tires in the middle of the tires. So like, they would stick think of a stack of car tires. They would stick you inside the stack of car tires and light them on fire and burn you alive.
What?
That was the punishment for being gay.
So there is right now an African country that just
I could be completely wrong.
No, they just outlawed it. They just put into law that it's illegal to be.
Some person from Nigeria is going to be like, that fucking asshole giving our country a bad name. Because I can't remember what country it was. But
that's why I'm looking it up. No, some country just outlawed it.
And or in other places they'll do other things. But yeah, it's like you can point out things that, and we were going to have a conversation at some point on the air about moral relativism, which there's we generally agree on certain moral principles, like not raping people, not killing people, things like that.
Uganda, it is Uganda.
Oh, is Uganda?
Yeah, Uganda's new anti-homosexuality law bans identification as LGBTQ.
So moral relativism, as I was saying, we all kind of agree on certain things, certain principles as human beings, even though, but not every country has, in different parts of the world, not even the country, but different parts of the world in general, because it could be a regional thing too. They have different cultures have different moral standards, right?
Yes.
And so in their culture, it's morally okay to punish people for being gay. I'm making a moral judgment and saying they're fucking wrong.
Right.
But
me too.
We also have to keep that in mind. I guess everybody has their own morals.
Right.
I don't agree with it because I think killing anybody for any reason like that is wrong. I'm actually against the death penalty too. Not because of the killing part of it, but because I don't think that as a society, I don't want that to be a part of the judicial system. I don't think that we should be doing that.
I actually think there are people where it would not be a bad thing to get rid of them.
Probably, but it's
certain crimes that they have committed. They, in my opinion, deserve to not be able to breathe anymore.
It's just that you can get into the argument about efficiency, like because people stay in death row for a long time, and there's lots of appeals that go on.
Sure, from a practical, logical standpoint.
But it's not even that for me. For me, it's a more principle thing. It's just I don't want the government, the big scary air quote government, to be putting people on a list to be murdered. I know that they're being killed for a crime, but there's also lots of times where people are put on death row who we find out were innocent.
Are innocent, yeah.
And to me, that's not okay. I would rather that we have lots of guilty people who get to live than killing somebody who's innocent.
So that kind of throws more into it, but I will say that if somebody is absolutely, we know, no shadow of a doubt that this person is guilty of certain crimes against another human being, I don't believe that they deserve the same air as everybody else.
It's a power thing for me. I just don't want the government to have that power.
Understood. Because it could be abused.
Right.
And actually it probably will and actually has been abused.
Right. Just like the way the judicial system takes advantage of or hurts Black Americans.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those same type of things. Those are the same reasons.
People of color.
Well, they're Black. People of color is an inclusive term of different, not besides Black people. It's Black and other people.
Name one POC group that is not treated like crap. Our legal
most
system.
of them are.
Yeah. So that's why I include all and not just specify African Americans.
Oh, I thought you were correcting me for saying Black people.
No. I was including all.
I was like, what do you mean? I can't. All right, whatever. Anyway, the point is,
all. Because I don't think there's any of them that are.
If you have problems trusting police or trusting the judicial system, or you think Black Americans are treated poorly in the judicial system, then why would you want that same judicial system to be putting people to death? That's how I think about it. I don't think they should have that power, because a judge, it depends on what the law is in the state, because not every state has the death penalty. But if the state has a death penalty, the judge, sometimes it's discretionary and sometimes it's not. You know,
I don't really agree with that.
The judge usually gets a discretion on punishing.
Right.
So, you know, if you're convicted by a jury for a certain crime, right? And then the judge has discretion over the punishment for that.
Okay. So I think somebody like Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody like Ed Gein. Somebody like Ted Bundy. Somebody like William Speck.
Jeffrey Dahmer took care of himself.
Yeah.
Because he was such a douchebag in jail that somebody fucking stabbed him.
I just think like all of them, I think all of the people that we definitively know have sexually abused children, who have sexually assaulted somebody, I think, and we know definitively, I think absolutely we should as a society decide to not just remove them and put them in a little box, but I think we should get rid of them.
Well, you want to put them in a little box. It's just that little box is a coffin.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to put them 6 feet in the ground. And that's actually a personal belief.
You probably wouldn't put them in a coffin. You probably just fucking give them a Viking funeral pyre or something.
No, I don't want to pay them respect.
Well, I don't mean an actual.
No,
I mean just burning the body. I'm saying.
I also don't think we should, give them a proper funeral with a box. No, dig a hole and let them,
all right,
decay in the ground.
So, unfortunately,
that didn't sound good.
We've run out of time for today.
Yes, we have.
And just so you know, we're on week 1 of Nick's detransitioning from being autistic. My magic serum has started to kick in. I've noticed that he's been his tics have been less frequent. He's also been stimming much less. So I'll continue to give you guys an update on the autism cure, and we'll see how it goes. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode going through Reddit. If you like it, maybe we'll do another one in the future and we'll go through some Reddit posts. Maybe I'll branch into some other subreddits, but related to autism, but maybe not directly an autism subreddit, or talk maybe something that's in a subreddit that happens to be about something affecting. Yeah. But leave us some feedback, some comments. You can actually leave voice comments if you're listening on Spotify, so you can send us a voice message if you want. But if you enjoyed it, we'll do another Reddit episode.
And please follow, share on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, on the spectrum.
Sodomize.
It's a really cool idea. Please increase that stuff for us. We do want to keep doing this podcast. If you like the podcast, please comment. If you don't like the podcast, please comment. If you think we should do something different, please let us know.
If you want the recipe to Nick's autism cure,
yes,
leave a comment.
Yes, which we don't actually believe autism can be cured, but we're going to keep playing that. Yeah, we are apparently. So, but yeah, please keep helping us move forward. Subscribe, follow, like, whatever it is. Leave us comments, stuff like that. Post to us. If you want to comment directly to us whatsoever, feel free to do so. We always respond to people, and we will talk to you at another time.